2019, the Tidal Basin in Washington, D.C. was listed as one of America's 11 most endangered historic places, thanks in part to a deteriorating seawall.
Well, now the National Park Service has been given the green light to protect some of our nation's greatest treasures. So joining us now is Mike Litterst from the National Mall and Memorial Parks to fill us in on what they're actually doing here to help things out.
Live there, too.
All right.
Love this,
I love
Mike.
it. Mike, okay, so we've got a pretty big, massive undertaking for the National Park Service. Why'd you guys choose to do it now? You know, is it just like, okay, all hands on deck, we got to get this thing going sooner rather than later?
Yeah, I mean, we're doing it now because we didn't have the money to do it 20 years ago. This has been a priority for the National Park Service for some time. The water in the Tidal Basin has been overflowing in some places since the late 90s. The trail that I'm standing on, we actually rerouted in the late 90s. And even the rerouted trail now goes underwater a couple times a month. So we have seen in the last probably 70 to 80 years, the seawalls have settled about 3 to 4 feet. At the same time, we are recording the level of the tidal basin rising about a foot. So we're seeing water 4 feet higher in places than we saw a couple generations ago.
Yeah, that's a problem. The price tag, $5.7 million. Where do you even begin on a project of this size, and how long do you expect it to take?
Well, and to be clear, the $5.7 million is just for the planning and for the environmental compliance phase of the project. When that's finished, we will hopefully go to construction. The construction funds are in the president's FY23 budget, just over $120 million. But we will start the planning now in hopes of having the construction money in hand. If all goes well, we will start construction late 2023, early 2024.
Is this going to block off areas for people that are coming to visit?
You know, the planning process is going to give us a lot of the answers. We simply don't know at this point what the construction is going to look like, what's the timetable, what's the finished product going to resemble. All of our projects, we endeavor to keep as much of our areas open as possible. But certainly, when we wind up rebuilding the seawall, it's going to require closures of those areas while they're under construction.
So, I mean, this thing's been, been around since the 1940s. Have you guys done any repairs to it since then, or is this like the real first big project that you've ever done to it?
We did a major repair directly in front of the Jefferson Memorial in about 2009. That work was funded by the Era Recovery Act, but it only accounted for a small portion. We've still got places that are going under. The seawall was not sunk to bedrock when it was originally built, so we're going to continue to have these problems until we go in and fix it.
And are you thinking about for the future ahead, are you going to build it extra big for the sea levels that continue to rise?
Stephanie, you're 100% right. When this is finished, we don't merely want a correction of the problems that exist. We're looking forward. We want a sustainable design that's not only going to correct the problems we see now, but 25, 50, 100 years down the road, we're not going to see the same issues.
Mike, are you up for doing live shots for us during the winter when there's big snow in D.C.? Because you're really good at this, like holding the camera.
Yeah, you're doing great.
View.
This is awesome.
I'm very impressed with your skills.
I'm impressed to come out any day when it's not 98 degrees like today.
Yeah, totally. Well, thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate it, giving us some insight there on what the project's going to be like. That's Mike Litterst from the Public Affairs Officer of the National Mall and Memorial Parks. He was great. That was good, too. Planning, I mean, how do you determine how high to build it if you're planning for the future? You're like, well, let's go an extra foot.
You just look at the projections and see, just how high they think it's going to go.